Welcome home, everyone. Thank you, Ken. Thank you. Bienvenidos a casa, a todos. Estoy emocionadísima de que estén aquí. Welcome to our affiliate leadership who lead the vision of this organization. Welcome to allies, friends who encourage, support us, and make us better every day. Welcome home. My name is Sulma Arias. I use she, her, ella pronouns. And yes, 22 years later, after I sat on that chair, on one of those chairs for the first time, I am the Executive Director of People's Action. Happy Pride Month. Happy Immigrant Month. I am so happy that we're here together after what has been very, very hard for years. Welcome all of you to this sacred space. My adult children and my husband, who is joining me here today, will tell you. Ruben Eccles, please stand. My husband, Ruben Eccles, for them too. They will tell you that I am the most annoying person when it comes to welcoming and hosting people because I obsess over my house being clean, everything being in place. Lucky for you and lucky for me and lucky for all of us. The people here, the team, the national team, there's a DNA here where the tradition continues and all the magic that they make seem so easy, which takes a lot of work, continues to be here and to make all of this happen. Thank you to each and every one of you who put in the time to make this beautiful home for all of us. Thank you for making sure that we're all feeling welcome. Because that's what home is all about, right? Home is a place where we go to reground ourselves, to find ourselves when we feel a little lost, when we feel a little tired and in need of support. When we want to remember the simple act of being held by a loving community. I also realize that for some of us, home might be filled with some complexities, even some sadness and some pain. You see, 4 years ago, on a Sunday evening, I got a call from my family in El Salvador. My sister, who had traveled to El Salvador for about 4 days, had drowned in a tragic accident. The word home at that moment became filled with a lot of pain and complexities for me because in the middle of everything that we were going through, we had to deal with the question, where is home for us? Did we leave her body there where my mom had been buried and where she was born and grew up? Or did we bring her body back to Kansas where she had children, she had bought a house, and she had built a community there? After a lot of conversation, painful conversations with our family there and our family here, we decided to bring her back to Kansas. As a result of that experience, I also decided to buy my own plot of land next to her for my own final resting place. Some of us had to deal with the complexities of home during the pandemic, when we were told to go and stay home in order for us to be safe. But some of us didn't have a home to go to. For some, the safety of home did not last very long because people were getting evicted when they couldn't make rent. That brought up all of the problems and the crisis that we have in this country. For some, staying home meant going hungry. For others, it was a place of physical harm and violence. And for most, it became a place of isolation, depression, disconnection, things that we're still grappling with today. So when we asked you to join us for this homecoming, it is not lost to us that many of you come from different experiences of pain, isolation, exclusion. Some of you have worked your butts off to be here. The last 4 years have been hard, and you've made it all the way here. But that's hard. Some of us are in the verge of burnout. And I've had these conversations with all of you across the country. I know because I've been there too. But you know what I've also experienced? I have experienced the power of people contact through organizing. The power of connecting to people who understand you, who love you, and who hold you. In 1999, a woman by the name of Laura Dungan, a white woman by the name of Laura Dungan, who was mentored by Shell Trap, one of our co-founders, knocked on my door. Yes, all the way in Kansas. She brought Shell Trap all the way to Kansas, a place that had very little significance back then. There's some talk about Kansas now, but it wasn't really a place where there was any national attention. But those two people saw something in me and went beyond the Christian conservative woman who was homeschooling her 3 daughters because she was afraid to send them to public school because of my religious beliefs. They engaged me. They didn't give up after the first time they knocked on my door. They were very curious, genuinely curious about the human being, and they found a deeper connection to me. And now I am standing before you because of them. When I began to search for answers while I was still in church, I discovered liberation theology. And for those of us who are not theologians, what it means, it is a movement that really interprets and applies scripture through the lens of marginalized communities. Soon after, I also discovered organizing, and I heard from Shell and from Laura that in organizing, those closer to the problem are also closer to the solution. I was blown away by that. I was so blown away by that. By the fact that the application, the interpretation, and the solution is in us and in the now. And that in order for all those works to mean anything and to have any power, which were written thousands of years ago, for them to have any meaning and for them to be effective, they have to be relevant to those dealing with these problems here and now, and they need to be reinterpreted by those of us who are here. Can you all imagine the writers of the scriptures, the writers of the Constitution? In the case of the Constitution, mostly white men sitting in boardrooms deciding about our bodies, making decisions about how we were going to be governed, and then making sure that they stayed in power to continue to govern us. I hope you can imagine it. I hope you can imagine it. I hope you can imagine what it means to change it, because it is only through reinterpreting and through reimagining that Brown versus Board of Education was won, which overturned separate but equal and gave us, people of color, public access. It was only through organizing, reinterpreting, and reimagining that the Voting Rights Act was won, which did not only secure rights for black people and for people of color, it secured right for white, poor people, for disabled people, by making voting more accessible for all of us, which, by the way, in this very moment, is in danger as we speak. And if all that sounds amazing to you and great, yes, but let me tell you something. The bad news is that there are forces disguised as let's make America great again, that want to take us back to those boardrooms, to those dark boardrooms, where people, all of us here, would not be welcome because we don't agree with a racist and greedy agenda. And they started planning a long time ago, but we read their playbook. Because the Joan Powell memo, for example, who we were introduced to 10 years ago through a process of creating a 40-year plan, we know their playbook and we started creating our own. So we started to push back, and we're now, like Ken said earlier, we're at a 10-year mark, and we're in the process of reimagining. And we're going to spend the next 2-3 days together reimagining how we're going to put people first. Rather than what? People first rather than what? The greedy corporations. And we're going to create a world where everyone can have safe, affordable place to live. A place where every single person can access health care, the health care they need. A place where we have clean air, clean water, and every one of us has a voice in how our lives are run. For the next 2 days, I invite you to be curious about each other. Don't give up at the first interaction. Be curious about the resilience that got each and every one of us here. Let's imagine the world that we can create together. Welcome home, People's Action.